Now, the first topic would be the fiscal policy. First question is, okay, shall we start or do you have any doubts? Start Jadam. Clear? What is fiscal policy? What do you understand by the term fiscal policy? Of course, just now I have told you, fiscal policy is nothing but if there is any income that is earned by, in layman language, we are trying to understand in the layman language, okay? Fiscal policy is nothing but if there is any income that is generated by the government, okay? And if there is any expenditure that is done by the government, these two are part of fiscal policy, okay? The receipts and the expenditure, the source of the receipts or the source of the income and the areas in which the money is spent are dealt as part of the fiscal policy. Okay. Now when I say it is the receipt and the expenditure, then what is the difference between fiscal policy and the monetary policy? Fiscal policy is regulated by government. Monetary policy is regulated by RBI. See, if you see the objectives of the fiscal policy, okay, if you understand the objectives of the fiscal policy and the monetary policy, directly or indirectly both are same actually. The objective is same. For example, if you consider the inflation, monetary policy tries to regulate the inflation through regulating the circulation of the money and the price stability. Okay, whereas the fiscal policy also tries to regulate the inflation. How? In what way does the fiscal policy tries to regulate the inflation? See, at any point of time, if you could not understand thing, just raise your hand. I'll repeat the point. Okay? No problem in that. Now tell me, how the fiscal policy regulates the inflation? Huh? By using? Be loud. Taxes. Okay. For example, let us consider the direct taxes has been increased. Okay, will that decrease the inflation or increase the inflation? The direct taxes has been increased. Previously, the percentage of the direct tax that is being levied on me is 20,000. For 1 lakh that I earn, 20,000 is being charged as the direct tax. Okay, now that has been increased to 30,000. Now, will the inflation increase or decrease? Increase or decrease? Decrease. Inflation will decrease. Why? Because the amount that is in the market, the availability of the money in the market is being squeezed by the government in the form of the taxation. The circulation of the money is being decreased in the market. Okay. Now consider indirect taxes. The indirect tax has been increased. Now will the inflation increase or decrease? Decrease. Increase. Increase. If the price of this particular pen is 10 rupees, okay, including of all taxes. Now the indirect taxes have been increased and the price has been raised to 12 rupees. Now it is the inflation, right? It is an inflationary mechanism. Okay, why? Because what is inflation at the core? The general rise in the price of goods and services. The price has raised. So obviously the increase in the direct taxes will lead to the increase in inflation. As simple as that. Okay. So when it comes to the taxation, we cannot constantly say that the increase in the direct taxes leads to increase in the inflation. It depends on what type of tax is being increased, whether it is the direct tax or whether it is the indirect tax that is being increased. Okay, so the increase or decrease of the taxation will have the effect on the inflation, but only the condition is that which tax is being increased, point number 1, and in what way it is being increased, point number 2. These two are important. Okay. Now, as I've told you, fiscal policy is a policy that deals with the expenditure and the income or receipts of the government. Okay. So, the expenditure and the income, it denotes the economic stability. Why? Because when the expenditure is more than the income, it means that the economy is not stable. When the expenditure is more than the income, it indirectly denotes that the economy is not stable. There is a deficit that is faced by the economy. మన ఆదాయం కన్నా ఖర్చు ఎక్కువగా ఉంటే మనం డెఫిసిట్లో ఉన్నట్టు. ఆ డెఫిసిట్ని పూడ్చడానికి వీ నీడ్ టు బారో మనీ ఫ్రమ్ సమ్వేర్. ఓకే, that is increasing the burden on the economy on first hand. And the second hand, we are prone to pay interest rate every year. Okay, and the interest rate is compounding every year. Okay, and this is not good for the coming generations. Why? Because for the money that we are borrowing today, the next generations will be bearing the burden of paying the interest rate and clearing the loans. Okay, so that is the reason because of which the fiscal policy, it aims to the concept of achieving the economic stability. Okay, and the fiscal policy also aims on the redistribution of resources. How the redistribution of resources? What do you understand by the term redistribution of resources? Redistribution of resources. పేర్లోనే ఉంది కదా. When the fruits of growth are distributed to each and every person, that is what is called as redistribution of growth. Okay, country is rich but the people are poor, it means that there is income inequality. Yes or no? When I say the country is rich but the people are poor, it means that the growth is contributed by only few sections of the people. Okay, now when they say country is rich, people are poor, it means that there is income inequality. Okay, so in order to decrease the income inequality, what do you need to do? When there is a growth, the outcomes of the growth need to be distributed to each and every person. That is where the concept of growth versus development lies. Okay, development is nothing but when the fruits of growth are enjoyed by each and every person, then that is what is called as the development. When the fruits of growth are enjoyed by only sections of the people, then that is what is called as the just growth. Growth is a numerical value, whereas development is the more holistic point of understanding the growth. Okay, increase of attaining 10% GDP is the growth. Okay, but there is a increase in the per capita income, it is the development. Clear? So the development should be, the growth should be reflected in each and every section of the society. That is what is called as the development. Clear? So that is another thing. Next, controls public debt and prevents excessive government borrowing. How does the fiscal policy controls the public debt? We need to increase the revenue. We need to increase the revenue according to our consumption, according to our expenditure. If we do not increase our revenue according to our expenditure, obviously we are forced to depend on the external sources or the other sources of funding, which leads to increase in the public debt, which is creating burden on the economy of the country. The burden on the economy of the country. Clear? Next. Now the major objectives I have told you. The major objectives is nothing but all the aspects that are related to the development of the country are the objectives of the fiscal policy. Okay, increasing the per capita income, developing the industries, achieving the price stability, or what do you say, maintaining the optimum levels of the inflation, or what do you say, coming up with better outcomes with respect to every sector. All are part of fiscal policy. Just few of them has been underlined here, but when we say what are the objectives of the fiscal policy, all the things that can lead to the economic stability and the development. Economic stability and the development are part of fiscal policy. Clear? Clear? And all these things are majorly achieved through one common name that we all know is budget. Why? Because it is through the budget the resources are allocated, especially the financial resources are allocated. Okay, so we try to achieve the objectives of all the major objectives of the fiscal policy through one common goal or one common document called as the budget. Clear till now? Yes or no? Any doubts? Any doubts? Clear? Next. Now, how does the government implement the fiscal policy? Implementation. Implementation is nothing but the, what do you say, what are the ways of achieving objectives? First thing, let us consider in terms of our household. Okay, let us consider the country as one unit of household, and let us understand the fiscal policy in context of the household. Okay, in order to save the money, what do you need to do? If you have the constant income, your income is not increasing. Okay, and your income is not increasing, and already you have certain amount of debt. Okay, now in order to increase your money, what do you need to do? We need to cut down our needs. Yes or no? We need to cut our needs, first one. Okay, so the savings need to be encouraged. Point number one. Okay, now when the savings are increased, obviously you put that money in the banks or in any other source of financial institution, but try to put that money in other institution where at least it is earning little amount of interest or little amount of profit. That is what is called as the capital formation. Okay, capital formation is nothing but you source your money or you invest the money into certain sectors or certain institutions where the money is generating the more money. The little amount of money that you have, it is generating more amount of the money. Okay, so that it adds to your revenue. Clear? Clear? Next, the concept of taxation. Now let us get into the government side, that taxation. Okay, what is the one object you are understanding, right? You are able to understand, right? Okay, what is the one way of source of revenue to the government? Tax. It is through the taxes the government earns the money. Now when I say it is through the taxes the government generates its money, now suddenly if the government feels like increasing its revenue, the government wants to increase its revenue to certain percentage level. Okay, now which tax is better to increase on the side of the government? What if the government increases the indirect tax and earns its revenue? Is it a wise decision? The government wants to increase its revenue. The government wants to increase the percentage of the taxes that is levied on the individuals, entities, goods and services. Okay. Now, what if the government increases the indirect taxes? Will it generate more revenue? Increasing the direct taxes will generate more revenue, or increasing the indirect taxes will generate the more revenue to the government? Direct taxes. How? Actually, increasing the indirect taxes will generate more revenue to the government. Okay, but the government will not do that. Why? Because if the government increases the indirect taxes beyond certain limit, obviously it will affect the poor. Why? Because the indirect taxes are same for everyone. The indirect taxes will not consider your income. If the price of this particular pen is 20 rupees, it is same price for the person who is earning 1 lakh per month, and it is same price for the person who is earning 10,000 per month. Okay, there is no price differentiation according to the income that is generated by you. Yes or no? Okay, so there is no differentiation at all. But when it comes to the direct taxes, there is an amount of change that is levied on you. There is a percentage change that is levied on you. The tax that is imposed on you will keep on increasing according to your income. To a certain level, the amount of the tax, the percentage of the tax that is levied on you will keep on increasing, what do you say, according to your income. If you ask me to graph it, if it is the tax rate, okay, and if it is the income, okay, now the amount of the tax keep on increasing to a certain limit as your income keeps on increasing, okay, and at certain level it stagnates. Okay, it does not increase. For example, the peak income tax that we have is, if I say the peak income tax that we have is 35% or 40%, okay, now after 10 crore, just an example, okay, the amount of income tax that is levied on you will keep on increasing until 10 crore. Okay, the peak limit is 10 crore, where the person is who is earning 10 crore need to pay 40% of 40% as the tax. Now the same tax is same for the person who is earning 100 crore, 1000 crore, etc. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే మనకి 10 crore అని ఒక అమౌంట్ పెట్టామో, ఏదైతే 40% ట్యాక్స్ అని పెట్టామో, ఓకే, ఇట్ ఈస్ ది మ్యాక్సిమం లిమిట్. Now beyond 10 crore, any person who is earning 150 crore, 1000 crore, etc., the percentage of the tax is same, 40%. Okay, ఎందుకు అలా పెట్టాము అంటే, if we keep on increasing like this according to the tax rate, obviously it will lead to the tax evasion or tax avoidance. $10 lakhs వరకు 30%, 15 lakhs వరకు 40%, 20 lakhs వరకు 50%, ఓకే, 25 lakhsకి 60%. అలా పెంచుకుంటూ పోతే at one point of time the person will feel that it is unnecessary for me to work, it is unnecessary for me to generate income. Why? Because I am anyway paying high amount of my income, high percentage of my income as the tax to the government. It's better not to work. Yes or no? Okay, it demotivates the person. That is the reason because of which we have, what do you say, kept a threshold limit of 40% or 35%, beyond which the percentage of the tax will not be increased. And even if it is increased, it will be very counterproductive on part of the government in the form of the tax evasion or tax avoidance. What is tax evasion and tax avoidance? What is the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance? Avoidance? Which is legal here? Tax evasion or tax avoidance? Tax evasion is legal. Tax avoidance is legal. Both are not same. Both are not same. If both are same, we will not have two terms for the same term in economy. Okay? The reason tax avoidance is legal is that you understand the loopholes in the tax system. You understand the loopholes in the tax system and you misuse that loopholes and you will not pay the tax. For example, if there is a Google company here in India which is generating 100 crore of profit in a particular year. Okay. Now the Google company that we have in India is the branch. Okay. The actual Google company or the headquarters of the Google company is in USA. Okay. Now understand there is another branch of this company in Mauritius, where there is no tax or there is little amount of the tax that is being, what do you say, levied. Now when the Google company in India, if it generates 100 crores of the profit, we'll ask the company to pay the tax. But the company says that the income that is generated is not from the company that is present in India. The income that is generated is from the company present in Mauritius, where we will pay, they say that we'll pay tax there, but the tax there is 0%. It is a tax avoidance. It has misused the loophole in the Indian tax system by saying that the income is not generated in India, but the income is generated in another country. That is tax avoidance. What is tax evasion? If I am earning 10 lakhs per month, okay, I need to pay 1 lakh as the tax to the government, but I don't want to pay tax to the government. Then I say that my income is not 10 lakhs, my income is just 50,000 per month. I will not disclose my income in order to escape the tax. That is what is called as tax evasion. Clear? Tax avoidance, I'm not saying that tax avoidance is legal, but tax avoidance cannot be criminalized. Why? Because you are just misusing the loophole, and it is responsibility on the part of the government to, what do you say, correct its loopholes. But whereas the tax evasion, I may be penalized for that. I may be penalized, I will be, what do you say, hit with penalty, I need to pay additional amount as the penalty to the government. Clear? Yes or no? Okay.